to talk about that, and we have just the panel that you will want to have to talk about such issues. We have Ernest Baka, who is barrister at law and solicitor. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kilian.
Yes, we have you, Henshaw Orok Are, civil society promoter. You also conflict resolution expert. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Kilian. Good morning to my co-panelists and good morning to our viewers. Thanks for inviting me once more on Press Hour.
You're welcome. Next to you is Lucas Denning, is the publisher of the Reporter newspaper. Welcome, Lucas.
Thank you, Kilian. We believe that today we'll discuss things that will influence and impact on Cameroonian society, especially the crisis hit Northwest and Southwest region. Welcome to all other panelists.
Thank you very much. We have our own Christian Ga. Christian, the publisher, CEO of the Guardian Post newspaper, the one and only one English language daily in the country. Welcome to the program, Christian.
Thank you, Kilian. It's a pleasure to be here once more to try in our own little corners to shape society and to give make sure that peace can help government resolve the crisis in the two English-speaking regions.
Thank you very much. We're just going to call on Emanuela Vemny to tell us what the papers have been saying the past week. Emanuela.
It's been an eventful week wrapping up for the press in Cameroon that was busy churning out diverse reports to keep the audience on the know. The African Development Bank's 106 billion franc Cfa loan to Cameroon particularly caught media attention. The Post newspaper on its Monday edition headlines AFDB loans Cameroon 106 billion francs for work on the Bamenda Ring Road projects to commence, an amount seen by Cameroon Insider as a new booster, a fresh push from AFDB for the Bamenda Ring Road project the paper describes as an economic game changer for Cameroon to be completely done with. The Eden appears confident that with this amount, the project, which has dragged on for years, may have its third and last phase complete, especially as the Guardian Post reports that the loan makes up 87% of remaining cost of the Ring Road project. But the insecurity in the region seems to dampen the hopes of the horizon. The paper says the 365-kilometer Bamenda Ring Road passes through 5 of its 7 subdivisions currently under the scourge of separatist activities, which may hinder the completion of the project set to boost trade between Cameroon and Nigeria. Happening when Prime Minister Joseph Dion Gute wants regional councils to deliver the goods in the decentralization process on Cameroon Insider. And immediately anxiety grips local authorities on the Eden newspaper as PM tasked ministers to prioritize transfer of competencies. But before that, members of government are called upon to set priorities for 2022 as the budget for that year is under preparation on Cameroon Tribune. Then another act of horror is committed by non-state armed groups on Cameroon Tribune, the kidnap of 6 administrative personnel in Dian Southwest region. Immediately widespread condemnation pours in from the Guardian Post, the Horizon and the Herald Tribune, especially as one of the kidnapped delegates is slaughtered. As the Guardian Post wonders on government's provocative silence over this kidnap, a new window opens on the Ngarbu massacre case on the Post Weekender, with what the paper calls Ntumbo Fund's startling revelations which embarrassed the military court. As the unstable security situation prevails in the northwest and southwest, government suspends activities of Doctors Without Borders in the northwest on the Post Weekender. But the paper thinks government is robbing northwest's most vulnerable of free medical care. Doctors Without Borders then warns on the Guardian Post that thousands in danger in crisis hit northwest, and immediately government strikes back at Doctors Without Borders, accusing the organization of double standards and hidden agenda on the same paper. Just when members of parliament encourage intensified campaign on COVID-19 vaccine on Cameroon Tribune, at a time the presentation of the COVID-19 fund audit report disappears from Parliament's agenda 24 hours to special plenary on the Guardian Post. Dangote is announced at the State House on Cameroon Insider, and Cameroon Tribune reports that Aliko Dangote came to thank President Biya for his support to the group's activities in Cameroon. The Guardian Post on its heels talks of the promise by Nigerian multi-billionaire Dangote of more investments in Cameroon. Investments which should meet a safe cyberspace, as Minister Libom Liliking urges civic virtual behavior in Boya on the post-weekender. The protest by PCC Christians in Nitop Bamenda on the transfer of their pastor and work to create the African Medicine Agency also form stories reported by the papers this week. We end our press review with the latest edition of Footprint magazine, which presents the great minds of our times. Minister Rose Mbacha's determination is saluted, training opportunities in NASLA presented, while sober ESCO among other subjects are treated therein. Until I come your way again, this is your Hour with the Press.
Thank you very much, Emanuela, and welcome back. We expect to have you our way next Sunday. The first issue we're going to handle is the crisis in the northwest and southwest region. We want to stop counting the dead in those two regions in Cameroon. We're looking at the obstacles to end the crisis. What are these? What are these obstacles, and how can we overcome them? That's the first topic we're going to treat. We're going to start with you, Christian. What are some of these obstacles, and how can we overcome them to end the crisis in the northwest and southwest?
I think the major obstacle lies in the fact that government apparently doesn't want to engage in inclusive dialogue without preconditions. I think every family has a problem, and how do you proceed with solving those problems if you don't want to sit down on the table with your enemy, let me put it that way, to talk? That to me is the major obstacle. Yes, there was the major national dialogue, but who were the attendees? We didn't see the people at the forefront of this crisis at the major national dialogue, even if they were invited. And so many people have given the major national dialogue several names, the topmost of which is that it was a CPDM gathering. And,
okay.
And when you look at...
Yes, how do we overcome that?
Let me come. When you look at the what is happening after the most trumpeted major national dialogue, it goes without saying that dialogue has not taken place. And that's why even the international bodies are calling for an inclusive dialogue to resolve this crisis, which, you know, government is, from every indication, not prepared, you know, to organize a fresh and inclusive dialogue without any conditions for whoever wants to attend. You know, if we don't start from there, then everything is an obstacle.
So your suggestion is inclusive dialogue? Inclusive
dialogue, and it should not be the kind of dialogue that we saw at the beginning of this crisis in 2016. You know, we went to Bamenda, government ministers went to Bamenda, sat on the high table, and the people who were complaining, the lawyers and the teachers, were seated down there. That is not how dialogue is conducted.
Let me take you on that.
Yeah.
Where in the world have you seen an established Republican going to the dialogue table with non-state armed groups to dialogue with no preconditions? Where in the world?
No, what is a dialogue? What is a dialogue? Let's ask that question. You cannot be going to a dialogue table when you already have an agenda. What you do is you go to the table and say, okay, we are here. Can I listen to you? And you start talking from there.
Okay, thank you. Barrister, you've listened to Christian. Christian, he's talking about an inclusive dialogue. If you want to react to that or continue with it, or there are so many other obstacles, which of them will you take?
Well, the point Christian made was it's a very important point. Everybody is for that inclusive dialogue, and the other aspect that is an obstacle to this crisis ending is the war merchants.
You will develop that since you subscribe to inclusive dialogue. He's talking about dialogue with no preconditions as a legal mind with international knowledge. Yes. Where in the world do you expect non-state armed groups to be invited to the table with biscuits to come and dialogue with the government, Republican, without conditions?
Before let me just say something here.
It's no longer you.
No, I just want to correct something.
You come back.
No, 1 minute, please. What I want to say is this. I don't know why you keep hammering on... remember that dialogue is going to take place between the leaders of this so-called Ambazonia movement, not with the fighters. The people who will sit on the table with government to discuss the way out of this crisis are not the fighters. We are talking about
the fighters represent them. There is just no difference between that. We're going to go. We are with you.
Yes, you asked me to develop that. Where your worry was, has the state wherever has a state in the world sat with a kind of non-state armed group
with no conditions, because that's what he's saying. It's at least the state.
Yes. What I would like us to understand is that the crisis in the Northwest and Southwest has taken a kind of international status, what we call in international humanitarian law, a kind of non-international armed conflict. It is true that the conflict is within Cameroon, but the magnitude with which the conflict operates, it is some sort of taking an international structure. In that light, I join issues with Christian that we cannot at this level keep talking about getting into dialogue with preconditions as if the Cameroon government or the state of Cameroon controls everything. When it started, yes, it could have been possible to get into it with preconditions, yes. But at this level, I think that it is no longer for us to think in that light that we can get and talk to these people that you must accept this. It is possible that we get with our own, with preconditions, but without making it open, that this is what the state gets into it, that this is what the state wants. We cannot allow this to happen. But again, it should be something that is going because you want to achieve peace for the sake of the poor civilians that are suffering. You are getting into it, not because you are up there and stronger, but you are going to it because you are looking at the suffering masses down there. And so the state should go as if it is sitting with an equal partner to talk. That's my own opinion as far as we are now in this conflict. Now, the second thing I wanted to add is that... I don't see
any equality in this.
It is not...
The more it takes, the more civilians suffer.
Good. And the more it takes, and the more civilians suffer, and the state is not winning the war. That's where the problem is, Mr. Killian. That's where the problem is, because the state is not winning and the civilian is suffering. And so the state that is, let me tell you, under international human rights law, the states have been held accountable for violence committed in the areas controlled by rebels of their own countries.
Do you accept that?
So which means that the state has the responsibility to get into this thing because it has an interest of its population at heart to get into this kind of dialogue that we are suggesting without going in with this strength or the kind of power that we have seen so far.
Do you agree with me that if the state decided today to go in with its power, that war will end?
Now, let me tell you something.
It's because the state is sympathetic of the civilians, and eventually it's possible.
Okay, now let me tell you something. Under international humanitarian law, in what we call non-international armed conflict, there are certain weaponry that cannot be used. That you must understand it. And that's why it's always very difficult for the state of Cameroon just to win the war as easy as you are saying. Unless they want to go and bomb and kill some civilians somewhere, we must understand we want, what all of us want is peace, that these suffering people should not continue suffering. The suffering masses are civilians. That's what all of us want.
Let's go around. Let's go around. You see, let's go around. Let's go around.
No, before you go,
let's go around.
The government is fighting a faceless enemy. You are saying that if the state goes out, you are fighting with an enemy who you don't know.
Okay.
Let's have that in mind.
Henshaw, we have been talking about dialogue. Do we have other avenues where we have obstacles and we want to see how we can overcome them? Because I want to think that all of us sitting around this table want to stop counting the dead and want to see the destruction of property ended. What other obstacle do you see to ending the crisis that we can overcome?
This Anglophone crisis, which has been going for more than 4 years now, has many obstacles. For example, there is double standard on the part from government officials and those who are supporting the Amazonian. I want to develop my point. From the government officials, you have people who are claiming that they want this conflict to come to an end, whereas they are financing the conflict one way or the other.
You cannot prove it.
I have my proofs. I'm a conflict and peace expert. I know what I'm saying. More to that, you also have some people like our elites. By the time they are going to their villages, they go freely. They pay ransom to those guys for their protection. That's another way of contributing that this crisis should continue. And more to that, we have some civil society experts as well as so-called peace experts. They're also doing double standards because they come on TV, on radio, pushing that we want this conflict to come to an end, whereas deeply within them, they don't want it because they are receiving funding from abroad so that their NGO should prosper, that they are fighting so that the peace should be restored in Cameroon. You have people like that there, they don't want this crisis to come to an end. I know people that I can name out of this thing with proofs. And more to that,
you don't name women.
I don't name. I don't want to name.
But you know where to carry such reports to. If we are sincere.
There are some people who are paid to do that. Let them do their job. They are paid for that. I'm just giving an information for them to go do intensive investigation. Yeah. More to that, we also have international bodies, which sometimes, like the state is accusing Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, that they are transporting arms. You know, in international diplomacy, that's humanitarian diplomacy. There are some type of articles that are not being controlled, for example, cars and diplomatic mallets. And those people can easily transport arms one way or the other. And more to that, we also have some military officials who are also eating big from this crisis. Because
now you have stated the obstacles.
Yes.
How can we overcome these various obstacles you've stated to end the crisis? That's our focus.
First of all, in order that this crisis should come to an end, us Cameroonians, being from the northwest, southwest regions or from elsewhere, we should be real. We should love one. We should love ourselves as other, because there are people who are really making this country to shamble because they don't want the prosperity and peace in this country. More to that, in order that this crisis should come to an end, I'm happy that the United States has started giving visa embargo to those who are supporting that this crisis should continue. And it's not only on the side of the Amazonians, even the government officials, because when this thing came out, people were jubilating from the other side that they are going to target those guys who are in the US and in Europe. We have many officials whose family are there. In order for them to go to the US, they will not be issued visas. And the US government has its own way of finding out whether we is sponsoring this crisis or not. So those are how it can come to an end.
Thank you very much. Lucas, the floor is yours.
Yeah, Kilian, you see, as Christian said, the obstacle is diagnosing the problem and coming to solutions, which means because the proper, doctors always spend a lot of time diagnosing a problem. when you diagnose the problem is half solved. But it appears the Cameroon government has not diagnosed the problem that is in the northwest and southwest. My reason for saying so is that when government decided that they were going to have a major national dialogue, the major national dialogue was supposed to be between the government and probably representatives of the fighters in the northwest and southwest. But government diluted the whole idea by bringing the whole world, by bringing everybody from all the regions. And when you see, when I realized what something at the national dialogue, somebody from the north will get up and say, we equally have problems. But the problem of a major national dialogue, government wanted a major national dialogue to be a step towards solving the crisis in the northwest and southwest. But they convened the dialogue and brought in just everybody, all Cameroonians, to discuss. And let me develop what I want to say. The dialogue ended up being a monologue because those who were actually supposed to expose the grievances were submerged, and government came, say, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to give you a special status. That what special status till today, I have not been comfortable with it. I cannot be in my own country and I'm given a special status.
Now, let me take you on that. You're going to continue to talk.
Yes.
Cameroon is a whole. The problem that we have today, armed conflict in the northwest and southwest. We have people who have their own grievances, and by right, by bringing everyone to that dialogue table was not a mistake from every sincere interpretation.
To me, it was a great mistake.
By solving one problem, you should not create another. Probably, you can be talking about the resolutions, whether they have been implemented. Not
even if they implement those resolutions.
What I'm saying is this, Kilian. There are certain problems that you dissect them and you cut them into small halves to solve them piecemeal. You don't take a small problem and involve everybody and it becomes a general problem. Meanwhile, because presently the people who are from the east, the people from the center that attend a major national dialogue, they are not even feeling the pinch of the Anglophone crisis. I don't see their contribution to the Anglophone crisis. Let's end at the major national dialogue. Let's just end at the major national dialogue. Was it actually a dialogue? Because dialogue means give and take. And the conflict in Norway and Southwest has already consumed time, energy, money, and killed people.
Yes.
In that sense, it means even those who are fighting for separation, they have captured territory. The government too has captured territory. You first sit on a table.
Captured territory?
I mean, captured territory.
Nobody has captured any Cameroonian territory.
I'm not talking about physical territory. When you talk about physical territory, it's different. Captured territory, that now the armed conflict has been internationalized. People now know about it. The guys are no longer cannot be taken for granted. They know about them. They know they are existing. If the United States is reacting today, it's because they know there are people who are in the U.S. who are sponsoring it. It means that it has already gained some international recognition. That is capturing territory.
Okay, now our focus is how do we overcome these obstacles?
Okay. This is how we can overcome this. This is how we can overcome this. When I say dialogue, it means we sit down. I have seen people who have reconciled people. He's sitting here, he knows how to reconcile people. When you want to reconcile people, you allow them to speak. They speak out their mind. Do you know that conflict and violence is absence of dialogue?
It's true.
Conflict and violence is always absence of dialogue. Allow people to speak their mind. At times in your house, when your child is so furious and you don't listen to him, he explodes. But first of all, listen to the people. When you say you don't want to listen to them, you put conditions that they must fulfill these conditions before you listen to them. You have already killed dialogue. Listen to them and pick out what is good from them and say, okay, this is a give and take. Okay, you people have decided on this. I'm not saying that government has given. Government has made concessions. But government has not listened.
Are you saying the various commissions that have been sent to the field to meet people that they have not had the complaints of these people who are agitating?
Who did they meet on the field?
Let me put a vivid example. You have the National Commission of Bilingualism and Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism that has been sent to the field. They say, okay,
with specific rules.
Yes, they say
englobe the whole.
No, yeah, they say hate speech engenders conflict, engenders hate speech and engenders xenophobia. then the same people that you see who go to the field are the people that the population have in their psyche as promoters of the same hate speech.
Now, let me just ask you, that statement is an exaggeration. There are two. No, we are going round. No, but you started.
I take responsibility for everything I say here.
Let me give you these names.
Yes.
Tumfo Neko Hali.
Yes.
I think we agree that this is somebody, he's a peace crusader, and he's the honorable, I call him honorable because he's a respectable person, David Aboemachoy. These two who went to the Northwest region. I think you cannot say something that these people don't trust them. People trust. Let me come to that. People trust Ntumfo Niko Hali. People trust Aboemachoy. Yes. Do people trust the commission? No, that's not what we are saying. If people trust them, you said they don't trust the people who go down. That's what you said. You said it's an exaggeration. You might be right there because I put it in global terms. But I'm saying when this crisis started, the same people to the United States, do you know that the same people to the United States to go and talk to those who are in the United States? Who were the people who were sent to the United States to go and talk? Well, that's another issue. That's what we're talking about today. Thank you very much. Thank you. You know, Christian is angry that you've taken so much time. Okay.
Let me say this.
Yes.
The way forward.
The way forward, yes.
The first proposal is that Anglophone elite should stop telling lies to the president.
Good.
And they should also stop deceiving Cameroonians that the head of state knows everything that is happening in this country. I hear them say that the head of state called me at 2 a.m. Let's stop deceiving Cameroonians. That's not true.
Well, you are not an intermediary between the head of state and these people.
Biya is a peace lover. If the president knows exactly what is happening in the Northwest and Southwest, within the next 1 or 2 months, this problem will be resolved.
Christian.
People have...
Christian.
Excuse me, please.
But you have said something, right?
I'm still talking. I am saying that ministers and Anglophone elite should stop telling lies to Biya about this crisis. They give the impression that life is returning to normal. But when they're going to the regions, they take the military along with them, get to Bamenda. Before they enter Bamenda, they take the armored cars. And then you come back to Yaoundé and you are telling people that life is returning to normal. Thank you. That is what you have said. You have repeated the same thing, right? Yes, let me come back. The last point. Yes, briefly. Dialogue is not something that you impose on people. That's where you started. No. The major national dialogue, government came with, I cannot be hungry and you impose what I have to eat. You have to ask me. What do you take as a drink? What would you like to eat? We've said that already now. No. Thank you very much. We have said that. If government wants to solve this problem, they should sit down with these boys and ask them what they want and say, look, this one is good, but unfortunately, we cannot give you that one now. Can you take this one? That is the way out of this crisis. Thank you. In all honesty, let me tell you that the President of the Republic doesn't depend solely on the elite to have information. To say, listen, to say that he doesn't know exactly what's happening, it's a gross overstatement. Can I tell you for a word? Now, what you are saying is that the president is aware that people are dying every day. We are talking here about civilians who are dying. The military is being killed on a daily basis. We have listened to you. And you cannot tell me that the head of state who loves peace is aware and he's just sitting. We have listened. We have listened to you. We have listened to you, Christian. We have one issue which is related to this one. It's Doctors Without Borders is a non-governmental organization that takes care of people who are suffering because of conflict, because of crisis. And the governor of the Northwest last December, that's December 2020, banned this organization from operating in the Northwest and, of course, by extension to other parts of the conflict. And they are fighting to come back. Government says that their vehicles were caught with unlawful material, weapons, which generally should be destined, it cannot be to government. That's what we're going to talk about after this transition. Thank you very much. We have a barrister at law at the table. We're going to start with you, barrister. International humanitarian law, what does it say about
delivering goods, supplying help to people who are affected by conflict, by crisis?
The international humanitarian law came into place after the dreaded war of 1859 in Soferino, and because there were a lot of sufferings of the civilians and the forces that were involved in that war. And since then, a certain Jean-Henri Dunant, a Swiss, pushed for the world to develop what we have today, the international humanitarian law. The international humanitarian law establishes rules that have to be respected during war. The rules of war are clear. You have to give the possibility of civilians to live in an average good situation during war. Victims of war have to be treated. Civilians who are sick during war have to be treated. Humanitarian structures that are within that area have to be given the access to civilians who are victims of war. And we have even the wounded soldiers of, in quote, enemies have to be treated either by the humanitarian organizations and have to be fed either by the humanitarian organizations or the camp that has captured the enemy. Why did they establish this? It was because they wanted to maintain the dignity of mankind, the dignity of humanity. And so the rules of war are very, very clear. And I think the Doctors Without Borders is out, to carry out this humanitarian role of humanitarian structures.
Now, the accusation is formal. It's something which has been running. It's once or twice that government has come out clearly. The Minister of Territorial Administration has been so vehement on this point that humanitarian organizations in Cameroon carry weapons, and as he says, without mincing his words, they are delivered to the non-state armed groups. So what happens in this case when it is proven?
Now, let me say something, Kilian. What we must bear in mind is that this conflict that has taken place in the northwest and southwest, the civilians have suffered enormously. Both the armed separatist fighters and the state soldiers have not acted in respect, in most cases have not acted in respect of the international rules I just cited. We have had situations where innocent civilians have been killed without giving the possibility to be tried in court, even when they are caught by the army, that the state constituted army that I think have received the international studies on international humanitarian law. Now, coming back to your question, what should be done? If it is proven the humanitarian structure that comes into a country is operating in respect of the integrity of that country that received it. Now, like in our case, we have a non-state structure army that is operating, or how do I put
armed group. It's not an army.
Armed group, sorry, that is operating against the constituted state army. So in this case, they have come into Cameroon through the government of Cameroon, and so the government of Cameroon has the right to monitor them. But where I have a problem is, what would be the interest of Doctors Without Borders to transport arms? What would be their interest? They have operated in several countries in the world. Do you have reports of them doing that elsewhere in the world? So that's my question.
Well, that's your question. I actually, in my in my research, I came across this question: can you shoot a medic in law, a medical practitioner? And the answer is yes. The answer is if they start carrying things like arms or using things like arms, they are now being unlawful and they can be targeted. Yes, Lucas.
Barrister asked if there are antecedents where Doctors Without Borders have been caught with arms or transporting arms, and what is their interest? What I want to say is that Doctors Without Borders, Médecins Sans Frontières, was established in 1971 in Canada. They established principles of operation, which is neutrality. And that goes with the Vienna Convention of 1961, that gives international recognition to most of these international NGOs, that once you go to a country to operate in the country, you must obey the rules and regulations of that country. But in 1971, when Médecins Sans Frontières established their charter, they said they have to be neutral. 6 years after, that's 1977, in Cambodia, one of their doctors went out of his way and chastised Khmer Rouge, for killing people. They were ousted there. Remember, in 1994, Médecins Sans Frontières went out of his way in Rwanda to talk about the genocide and call for international intervention, which is not their part. They love. In 2004, Médecins Sans Frontières in Afghanistan, when they killed 5 of their workers in Afghanistan, it was because they discovered that in Afghanistan they were playing games with the Taliban and the government. They killed 5 of their workers. They pulled out of Afghanistan in 2004. In 2009, they realized that they still had funding that was for Afghanistan that they have not used. They came back to Afghanistan in 2009. And how did they operate in Afghanistan in 2009? They came back there now, decided to operate one of their projects in government control area, another project in Taliban control area, and they were tolerated. Let me come back to something. Recently, Médecins Sans Frontières published their own book, which is called Humanitarian Negotiations Reviewed. And in that book, in that expose, which is a self-expose about themselves, Humanitarian Negotiations Reviewed, it emerged from there that for them to operate in Somalia, they paid $10,000 per project fee to an Al-Qaeda militia in Somalia to operate there. In 2009, the same Médecins Sans Frontières in Yemen had declared Yemen as one of the 10 worst humanitarian places in the world, crisis in the world, which Yemen was not. They had to apologize to Yemeni government, in order to operate there. So you see,
very good. That's a very good history. Now he's talked about.
Let me develop. It has come to the fact that humanitarian aid is no longer humanitarian aid, but humanitarian business.
Okay.
And if
please, let me just read.
Yes, he has made a very good statement there, talking about it should be neutral, should be impartial, should be independent, should also be based towards humanity. I think that's the way I summarize what you have said.
I just wanted to
before we take
this issue of impartiality and neutrality. Do you know that just the fact that a humanitarian organization accesses a place where that is controlled by an armed group, the other group has the tendency of believing that it's doing some business with the other group? Let me finish.
He has cited several areas where it was proven and they were kicked out.
The other thing is this. They are kicked out at times because they want information from those humanitarian organizations, and information is not given. They are not ready to give the information to whoever is asking them. And that's why most of the times they are targeted. You can find that out even with the Red Cross. So the issue is usually because these groups, the humanitarian organizations, are not ready to give information to the protagonists in the conflicts that they are targeted. And the stronger one, like the state, will send them away.
Henshaw Orok-Array, you haven't spoken. You are a conflict resolution expert. I think we need your expertise here. Can the humanitarian organization, Doctors Without Borders in Cameroon, be playing a game?
Doctors Without Borders in Cameroon can be blamed because it has breached the Vienna Convention of 1961, meaning not to carry arms in their car, meaning they should be neutral, meaning they should be impartial, meaning they should be humane, because carrying arms in a car to go and give to one party is to fight the other party. That's not being humane. And more to that, you cannot come into a country, a law-abiding country like Cameroon. Before entering Cameroon, you sign conventions with the Ministry of External Relations, putting down your key objectives, what you have to do, what you don't have to do, and you accept, you sign an agreement that you are going to work accordingly. Then after, there's something else people are seeing in the field. It's true that most of these international organizations, sometimes they play funny games like we are accusing Médecins Sans Frontières now, but they're also giving out many humanitarian help. Like, for example, Doctors Without Borders goes to remote areas where hospitals are not available. They treat people, in this Anglophone crisis, 700,000 people have left their homes and they have gone elsewhere. 60,000 have gone to Nigeria as refugees. And Médecins Sans Frontières or Doctors Without Borders has treated just last year before they were being told to stop their activities. They consulted 150 people, not talking about illnesses like malaria, where people go and sleep in bushes, they have been infected, cholera, women delivering, those who have been raped, they are catered for, as well as those who have been maimed. But I do believe with this suspension, Doctors Without Borders is going to learn some lesson, and other international organizations. My brother was talking about the Red Cross. The Red Cross is an international movement. The Red Cross has 7 principles: unity, universality, humanity, impartiality, neutrality, voluntaria. Those are the guiding principles of International Red Cross movement. And in Cameroon, we have the Cameroon Red Cross, which is found in 58 divisions, and they have 65,000 volunteers throughout the national territory. When other international partners come, the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Society, the International Committee for the Red Cross, not forgetting about other national societies like the French Red Cross, Swedish Red Cross, Luxembourg Red Cross, they work with the national society, which is the Cameroon Red Cross, in order to touch all parts in the country to assist people in the humanitarian way of doing things properly. So when my brother was talking about the Red Cross, I felt so disturbed because so far we have not had any hinges from any Red Cross movement or national society.
Now let me ask this question, please. Let's.
Why you ask a question?
Please.
Yes, maybe we're going to start with you.
Okay.
Yes, when I ask this question, if the humanitarian organizations, the case in point is Doctors Without Borders, are very sincere. They come and sign that they are going to work according to the rules governing the host country. Why would they not accept official non-armed supervisors or just observers, follow them, since they have to deal with people affected by the conflict or crisis, or people who are no longer fighting, who probably were fighting before?
Well, before I answer your question, let me just say something briefly, because we ran that story in the Guardian Post. I mean, the press statement from Doctors Without Borders and government's reaction. Let me start with the with the accusations, which the governor of the Northwest, as we are told, the reason why, because we have not here explained why their activities were suspended in the Northwest. So we have to clear that part.
No, we know that government came
on. Doesn't know.
Well, the government, we followed from press review. No, you will speak. You will speak. We just want you to not to say that we don't know when government.
I know. No, but the viewer does not know why they were suspended.
In the press review, it is told that they were carrying arms. The arms were found in their vehicles, in their.
Those accusations are sweeping. Let me say it that way. But I wanted us to actually just point out some of the accusations. That one is not even one of the, because one of the things we learned was that they give Android phones to Amber fighters, and at that, when some of the generals in court were killed, they verified, and there were communication exchanges between them and the Doctors Without Borders. And then another principal accusation is that the Doctors Without Borders, they can go into every interior part to treat an Amber fighter. True. Sometimes they will go to hospitals to pull them out from those hospitals, to treat them. But the government is wondering why, for their stay in the Northwest, especially, they have never attended to a military officer.
One.
Not even one.
They should just show point one.
But again, to me, those are just...
Then there's impartiality there.
No, there's nothing like impartiality.
Yeah, because why should you treat another person and don't treat another person?
Are you saying they refuse to treat?
But that's the accusation which they are being accused that they are not neutral. They are impartial.
Can I just land?
Please, let us...
I'm not done.
No, you will continue.
No, let me finish, because I'm giving a one-sided story.
You will continue. Yes, you must continue. Okay. After this is you.
All right.
The military is well organized. When they go to the field, when one of them is wounded, they carry themselves to their medical center. They don't wait for an organization.
From my understanding,
let me just finish.
Let me just finish. For the civilian or for the.
It's for everybody.
We agree, but we are saying that the army is well organized in such a way that once one of these is wounded or there's a problem, they transfer immediately.
Do you agree with me that sometimes the military does not have enough equipment or
Cameroonian military has. You're going to
in remote areas. We can hardly have those things. That's why the goes there to do their job. You cannot have those facilities easily.
The question, they are trained to withstand, to resist very difficult situations, and I don't think that the Doctors Without Borders ever refused to treat any military person who was in need. You cannot prove that here. Now, the question I've asked is, why would Doctors Without Borders not want to have officials to move about with them, even facilitate their work?
That's what I wanted to say.
You did not answer. I asked you. You didn't answer.
Excuse me, please.
Can you answer that?
I can answer the question.
I'm about to answer.
Answer that question.
I said these are the accusations from the side of government. But I think we cannot just take that for gospel truth. And my answer here is that Doctors Without Borders, I don't know who is their communication officer, should be able to come out to clear the air.
Okay. Now, you had something in that direction. Yes, after that, yes, he also in the same light after him.
What I want to say is that moving with government representatives to move along with Doctors Without Borders will put Doctors Without Borders on harm way, because the other group will think that they are cooperating with the government, with government forces. That's why we talked about neutrality. They have to do everything to maintain their neutrality. And I come back to question the aspect of Doctors Without Borders suspended because they carried arms. We need to know, is it the structure that sponsors the carrying of arms, or an individual worker who might have gone astray and worked ultra-virus the rules of Doctors Without Borders?
And do you know what?
We cannot depend entirely the position of the government of Cameroon, knowing fully well how, in some cases, civilians have been treated even by the government forces, refusing to give some
barrister
access to food or health. They have blocked at times communication links. That within international humanitarian law is not correct. So we cannot take for gospel truth what is said about Doctors Without Borders without having the exact facts and information with us.
Barrister, as a lawyer, please, just give me 1 minute with Barrister. As a lawyer, let us say that it's just one of those people we call a recalcitrant or delinquent, and that he happens or she happens to have arms in their car. Doesn't it compromise the whole mission, because just that one person can carry arms that will destroy the country?
You are telling me that the fact that
I am asking a question.
The fact that a soldier of the Cameroon army goes astray in the northwest and southwest and kills an individual, he should not be prosecuted and the whole state should be held accountable? No. If the state can only be held accountable if the state does not punish that a recalcitrant worker. And now, if we have proofs that a worker of the Doctors Without Borders carried arms and he was punished or sent before the state to punish, then that's fine. We cannot blame Doctors Without Borders. But that's why I said the intention of the whole structure. We should know if it is the whole structure that bought arms and wanted to carry to the stronghold of the rebels.
And now you understand why they were suspended, because under such circumstances, suspension is just the best thing to be done, and they are writing to resume their activities. Yes, Henshaw?
I want to chip in something what my brother was saying. When you are working with an international organization, we are talking about those borders without Doctors Without Borders. On their car, something is drawn on it, cancelled, gun.
Yes.
You don't transport a gun, and you don't have access to the car if you are not working there. And thirdly, before you are being recruited, all those rules are being spelled. And you were saying, Kilian, that why is it that people not killing? Why is it that the military is not accompanying Doctors Without Borders? They have to be neutral, to be impartial, in order to make sure that those and the civilian population should have more confidence upon them. They working together with them is going to compromise their job in the field.
Well, I talked of official, not necessarily the military. Yes, Lucas.
See, when we talk about neutrality, neutrality does not exclude transparency.
Good.
It doesn't. Because the problem with Doctors Without Borders is, because now what they are doing, because the government suspended, the government did not ban them. The government suspended their activities in Northwest region pending investigations. Say, okay, because we've had this first-class information, let's first of all suspend you. They suspended them. And what Doctors Without Borders is doing now by putting a communique out and putting it on social media to go viral is what we call backdoor bullying in diplomacy. Actually, we know, he knows how international NGOs operate.
Yes,
it is a whole funding system. Now they are not interested in the people they are talking, because you cannot, if you are, then they're interested in the funding that they have not yet executed in the Northwest. That is fact. And the issue is, Kilian, if you're in your compound, you lost your son. I want to use this homely example. You lost your son, and you see another person strolls into your compound and cries more than you. You must pose problems. You must pose the question. No. Why is that person crying more than you? Why the person crying more than the bereaved?
Okay.
I want to just chip in something about the funding. You know, these international organizations, international NGOs, they receive fundings from partners, and by the time those fundings come in, they don't use all the fundings. Next year, by the time they ask for another funding, they will not be given, because the funding offered to them that year wasn't used, and is going to make that their activities are going to be difficult in the field. So that's why they want to do everything to execute to disburse all their money or use all the money in the Northwest region.
Is it not time that investigation against Doctors Without Borders be published?
I read their communique. They have said that they have been suspended upon what?
The way forward, Christian.
So they are hiding something. Why did they say it clearly?
Yes.
They didn't say it.
Last statement,
last statement is, I think, we cannot undermine the role of Doctors Without Borders in a conflict zone like the Northwest.
Yeah.
But I keep saying that, you know, sometimes staying quiet means consent. The accusations against Doctors Without Borders are really very serious. And the fact that for more than 6 months, because they were suspended on the 8th of December, 2020, the fact that for an international body like that normally should even communicate, and let them tell us their side of the story.
They came out with without giving suspended.
No, this
is they are surprised. They don't know
the government is accusing them for having carried arms in their car and that they are innocent. They never said it like that. I read the communique.
It is rather the state to publish the investigations and the findings and document for people to see.
I read it. It's not stipulated there.
Now,
said suspended.
What? This is the way we're going to end it. Government came out through several representations. The Minister of Territorial Administration came up and said, these are facts documented. The governor of the Northwest region acted on it as the representative at the regional level. Based on security reports. This is where we are. Doctors Without Borders are trying to come back and resume activity. That's where we are, but we are still questioning why this happened. Can they be playing a game? That's how we're going to end the program. If you caught us halfway, you can watch a full rebroadcast of this program on Monday between 2:30 and 3 p.m. You can also watch us as you're convenient at CRTV Web, Facebook, at any moment you want to. Thank you very much for being there. Have a nice day.